Welcome and thank you for joining our webinar, Business Intelligence for Sales Success. My name is Ian Itschner from Pepperi and I'll be your host for today's webcast. Before we get started, I'd just like to point out a few housekeeping matters. One, you're on listen-only mode, so if you have any questions that you'd like to address to us, please type them into the questions box in the GoToWebinar panel, and we'll do our best to answer them in the Q&A session at the end of the webinar. Throughout the webinar, we'll have a few poll questions that we'd highly appreciate your response for. So please take the couple of seconds just to give us your vote on the questions that we'll be publishing, and hopefully we'll be able to share those, the results of the questions with you. And lastly, as a follow-up to the webinar, we'll be sending you all a soft copy of the presentation so you can focus on listening and take down or drop your notebooks and pens, and no need to worry about taking notes. So with the housekeeping behind us, we're ready to get started. So we're excited to host Ian Itschner, from a business consultant with more than 20 years experience in strategic consulting, consulting to CIOs in dozens of companies, from huge to small. Ian has led change management projects, ERP and CRM implementations, and has a particular expertise and focus in business intelligence. So with this background behind us, I'd like to hand it over to Ian. Ian will cover the content in our webinar today. Ian, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Oren. Just another housekeeping matter before we start. I'm just getting over a cold, so hopefully I don't have to stop too many times to clear my throat. I apologize that up front. So as Oren mentioned, I've been working on major business improvements for over 2 decades. Currently I'm a consultant with a company called Talent Consulting. I focus on things like integrating companies after mergers, quality initiatives, lead time reductions, decreasing costs, customer satisfaction, sales initiatives. I've found that projects with the biggest success have really included a significant focus on business intelligence. So today I want to talk about a number of topics related to BI that you and your company should be mindful of in helping your sales team really maximize success. If your company's really light on BI usage, this should give you a good framework that you can use to improve. And if your company's already heavily invested in BI, I'd expect there's going to be some topics that spark continuous improvement. So let's get started. To start off, let me briefly talk about the things I think of when I'm talking about business intelligence. So BI is a very broad topic, and I consider any technology that you're using as to drive decisions as part of BI. So these are things these are things like spreadsheets, reports, dashboards. Those are the things that most people are going to think of as BI. You're probably getting alerts or reports through your email. Some of you might even be getting information in real time on your phone or tablet through a mobile app. So those are the common areas you're going to think of when you think BI. Something you might not be familiar with is what we've got on the screen is in-process insights, what a lot of people call embedded BI, and that's what I call it. This is when information is given to you automatically when you're performing tasks like giving customer a quote or entering a sales order. Something else you probably don't think of as BI is what we call real-time recommendations. So you've seen this when you're using Amazon, and they give you suggestions of other things you might like based on browsing and order history. This kind of real-time analysis and reporting can really be powerful to get your team to increase sales. So just keep in mind as we go through the topics today that BI is not a one-size-fits-all. So some of these things make sense for your company, some of them won't. Some of them might sound a little scary of, oh my gosh, this is so much work, but I really want to let you know or keep your eyes wide open and keep you informed of what's out there. But most of all, at the end of the day, I think that BI is a way to really transform your organization. And you don't have to tackle these things right at the beginning to get a lot of value out of business intelligence. So next, let's talk about you know, a lot of sales groups. Something that happens is, you know, we're running on experience. We have salespeople out there in the field, and their experiences is what makes them valuable. So we value their technical knowledge, their personal relationships, but in order to really maximize profits, we need to add data into the mix. So delivering a lot of information to our reps allows them to communicate and make decisions more effectively, because they don't really have to spend a lot of time researching and chasing down answers. We can really help maximize profitability by focusing on the customers who are the best for our company without being influenced by their personal feelings, their historical relationships. That is something that we value them on, but can really be dangerous if we're not careful. So another thing is really good BI systems keep us from leaving sales reps all alone out in the field. So regardless of where someone is in the world, they need to be able to get instant access to reports that make them, or that help them make the sale. And a good BI system definitely can do that. One of the things I've seen in companies that aren't providing a lot of information to their reps is, you know, they tend to micromanage or second guess the reps' decisions. You know, they're being asked, why didn't you go after this particular customer? Why did you give that pricing to that particular customer? Because we're allowing them, or we're just only giving them information, or we're not giving them any information at all. We're just letting them do it off of their own experiences. So what I found is, if you give the reps a complete picture and the information that they need, and you keep them using that information within a certain boundary, you can give them a lot more freedom to do the best things that they do without worrying about, you know, micromanaging them later. So when they're asked, hey, why did you make that pricing decision? They said, hey, because the system told me this was the best thing to do for the company. And that really can empower the employees and make them feel much more positive about their job. And obviously it's going to help the company out. So I want to go over something I use in when I start a project with a client to help figure out where they're at on the maturity curve, what I call. So this helps to figure out where we can go to make improvements in the system and make improvements in our company. So the lowest level along this curve is simply called the reporting level. That's kind of where everybody starts out. This is where, you know, we're talking about what's happened in the past. So you're getting monthly reports. It tells you what happened last month, you know, manually created by someone, sent out to the group via email. So these reports probably given out as spreadsheets. You don't really have a lot of ability to drill down. And if you are able to get your own reports, it's usually off of a saved query. You don't really have any control over it. Yeah, we've probably seen this level, and this level is just the basics. You know, it's not really giving us a lot of value to take action now in our company. The next level, so the next level is called the analysis level, and here you're still getting mostly historical reports, but at least you're getting those reports in a more graphical way. They probably have some analysis already performed on the reports. They're not just data dumps. And you not only see what happened, but you have information to help you figure out why it happened. So at this level, you're able to get reports probably out of a central repository. People from different areas are using the same reports. You're not getting the reports emailed back and forth. And these reports are pulling from databases instead of manual sources or spreadsheets. One of the things in this area is that departments might be pulling from they're probably not pulling from a centralized data system. So your quality data might be on its own, your CRM data might be on its own. So those departments get really good report, but getting departments a complete picture across the company is really much more of a challenge. Then the next area is the monitoring area, or the monitoring level. So this is where you're really able to see what's going on right at this minute. And this is where you're getting a lot more power out of your BI system. So the data across the company is really well synchronized. You can get a more full picture of what's going on with your team, what's going on with your customers. You'll be using key performance indicators or KPIs so that we can easily see if the decisions that we're making are going in the right direction. You'll find a lot of use of dashboards. They're very graphical, allow you to customize reports yourself and drill down to the data that you need. So very rich reporting here. One of the big features of this, you know, on the monitoring level is that you're going to start seeing a lot of in-process instant feedback. So one of the things I mentioned before about as you're creating an order that you're getting that feedback right away. That's the monitoring level, what's happening right now. The last stage is the predicting stage. So, excuse me, this at this stage, this is not that common. Only about 5% of companies that I see are really exploiting business intelligence to automate their forecasting and goal setting. That's the biggest piece of this, I think. Companies at this level are using techniques like balanced scorecards to make sure that the decisions are aligned across the company. They're using data from their customers, not just data that they have. So they're getting data that helps them understand how the end users are using their products. And some really advanced analysis is being done in what's called big data, which is big data is what drives those, if you like this, then you might like that, Amazon features that Amazon and others use. So with that, we want to do our first poll. Yes?
Yes, we do, Ian, and I'll open the first poll question out. Just take me a second. Here it comes.
Great. So if you can remember back what I just showed, what would be nice to know is where you think your company is or your group is on the continuum here. Are you at the basic or reporting level stage where it's a lot of historical reports given an Excel analysis? You're getting data from centralized sources, monitoring where you're getting real-time data, or predicting where you're using the data to really do advanced forecasting and budgeting.
Okay, so we have 40% voted. Come on. We'll leave it open for another 20 seconds. Let you guys all vote and show us where you're at on this curve. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so we see that approximately a third are on the reporting stage. So focusing on what happened and static reporting. About a fifth, just over a fifth, are in the analysis stage. A third in the monitoring cycle, which is nice to see. Already making inroads into BI, and less than 10% are in the predictive, which is in line with the industry numbers that Ian, you mentioned earlier.
Excellent. Great. Thanks for that information, everybody. Let's get back to the presentation. Great. So go ahead and go to the next. So now I'm going to go through just 7 specific topics to help you think about how to use BI effectively in your company. So first we'll start off, we need to think about the foundation or the data of what we have available. Some of this might make the whole program seem a bit complicated, but again, we're really talking about understanding where you are and what's possible so you don't bite off more than you can chew. So don't get too worried when I start talking technical stuff. Excuse me. A big issue that I have to deal with most of my clients is just getting the data into the database. So if the data is in a spreadsheet or written on a piece of paper, there's nothing I can do with it. You know, most of the time, fortunately we can find a place in the existing ERP system to record the information. But sometimes just making that change is a pretty big deal, and it's a change to the process that's difficult for people. So we need to get executive management on board to back us in moving things from a manual system to a database system. And a couple of other technical things that we have to think about are what kind of skills do our IT people have? Are they able to help us better collect the data? Are they able to write reports? Are they able to manage a dashboard system? If not, are we able to get outside help from consultants? All of those things, again, require senior management backing and senior management involvement. And we don't want to overlook the sophistication level of our sales reps. You know, based on how comfortable they are with analyzing reports or creating their own reports, we might need buy-in on training, coaching, or we might have to pick different tools. So ideally, we want to pull data from every system in the company into some sort of central database. And we ideally want that to be as close to real time as possible. You know, so that way we can easily get reports for any part of the business, and we know up to the minute information on things like inventory levels, lead times, and customer credit. The biggest challenge that I find, or the biggest challenge just in general, is in normalizing the data. So normalizing is getting part numbers and customer names to be consistent, and a lot of people don't have that done in their companies. I had a client where we needed to consolidate the data from 3 different ERP systems, 3 different manufacturing facilities, and we also pulled information from a separate quality system and a separate CRM system. All of those systems, there were customers or customer names in those, and they weren't consistent. There were over 4,000 customers company-wide, and we had to make sure they used the same customer numbers. So big challenge. But it actually, we had a sales admin. She spent half of her day every day for 3 weeks, and she got all 4,000 customers aligned between all the systems. And sometimes you just have to gut through it like that. You can't, it sometimes can seem overwhelming, but there are things you just overcome once, and then you're rolling. Then you're back on your BI system, or you're able to actually use a BI system effectively. So don't be overwhelmed. Just realize that some of these things have to be done, and tackle them. So the next topic is I'm just going to talk briefly about selecting good measures for your sales reps. So first off, we want to limit ourselves and not overload the sales reps. You can see in the example on the screen that's coming up that we can have a dashboard that it has 4 main parts to it. It doesn't have a bunch of dense information. It's graphical. The sales reps can get an immediate impression of how they're doing. They don't have to read through pages and pages and pages of detail. So again, it's really important to limit ourselves. We can be really excited about all the features that are out there and all of the different things that are available, and we can really overload our sales reps. So pick and choose conscientiously. Next, we want to focus on the right measures, and what I find is the best measure is on profitability. We want to be sure that we're showing them the information that's giving the biggest bang for the buck. I have a lot of clients who show the top customers by revenue. That's really common. So the reps focus on getting more and more revenue. But if you show the information by profit, it might make a bigger impact on your company. You can see up here that the list of the customers at the top and the list of customers at the bottom is different. So in this case, the customer who was 7th on the list for revenue was bringing in the most profit, and the profitability of their sales is higher than everyone else's. So we really need to be focusing on customer stew in this case. That's the one that we really need to be growing. And if we just looked at revenue, yeah, we're probably going to work with Stu because he's lower on the list. But it's important to know that we should be working with him because he's going to bring the most profit into our company, and that's what really matters. The next item we're going to talk is, when you select your measures, be sure to differentiate between the actionable and informational numbers. So when we're showing on-time delivery percentage or inventory levels, those are good for sales reps to know, but they aren't really something the sales reps can affect. So on the other hand, up at the top there, the actionable measures are the thing that we want the reps to really have influence over. We want them to increase the amount of product being sold. We want them to help retain customers that might be doing less business with us. We want them to focus their efforts on selling the most profitable product. So when we identify these actionable measures, we can actually give them goals to shoot for. Informational, we can't really give them goals to work with or we can't give sales reps the goals to work with. So you've probably heard of using the SMART goals. So SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. And you can see some goals that we've set or some examples that really follow that. Don't make very generic goals that just say, we want to increase revenue, or we should do better in profitability. Actually put goals that are measurable out there. Put goals that have dates associated with them, and put goals that are something that are achievable and relevant to a sales rep. So another area, or the last thing I wanted to mention when selecting measures, is to try and be creative with the measures. So you don't have to just give things as charts and graphs. And in this example, the reps could see all their dealers and distributors on a map within the Pepperi product. What we did is we added all potential dealers to the map as well. So you can see those in the black dots or black pins on the map. Every time the rep looked at the map when they're going to visit dealers, they could just say, well, hey, why don't I stop by these other locations and check them out? It was another way to push the reps to bring in new business, but it wasn't really overt in saying, oh, here's the measure that we're going to measure you on, and if you don't bring these 3 in, well, just by putting them on the map, we found that these guys actually went over there. They'd take pictures, they'd talk to the dealer, they'd see what they could do to help them out. So be creative in using business intelligence to drive the behavior of your people. And so with that, I like this to be very interactive. So we got another poll, I think. So in this, what I'm looking for is, what kind of KPIs do you use, and not which, this isn't a multi-choice. This is one-off. So I'm really looking for what's the biggest thing that makes an impact on your group. What do you see that's the most valuable for you?
In the vast majority, we have 2/3 votes already in, and it's either revenue by product, which is just under 1/3, profitability at 2/3, and a few that are looking at other measures that we don't have here listed.
Great. Thanks. These kinds of things, hopefully they give maybe the participants here a little insight, but I'm a greedy person, and so it's nice to get this information for myself just to see what people are thinking out there. So good. Let's go to the next item, Oren. So this next topic is really valuable. I think it's pretty easy to understand. So we don't have to go into too much detail here, but I think businesses don't use it as much as they really could. So embedding BI in the process means that information is given to the rep right as they're performing their job. The reason that embedding it is ideal is if the sales rep has to stop entering an order and then go somewhere else to get inventory info, or if the customer to find out if the customer has a credit problem, it slows the process down. And at the end of the day, if the sales rep is often if they have to go back and forth between their entry screen for something and a report, they often are just going to stop checking the report because they need to get their job done and they want to get it done fast. They want to get back to being out there with the customers. So embedding BI, can look like a lot of different things. As the sales rep is entering an order, maybe they're shown a sales trend graph so they can talk to the customer, see if they can increase sales if they're declining. Maybe they're shown open quality issues, the status of open orders, so they can be proactive and talk to the customer, about their entire business, not just this order. As the rep is choosing items on the order, maybe they can see live inventory levels. They can get suggestions on what else to offer the customer, like promotions or something in the, if you liked this, then you might like that, Amazon type functionality. So again, it's really powerful. A lot of the times the reports and alerts are in your order system or your ERP system. They already exist, and you're just not using them to the fullest extent. And they might not be in your system, but I've found that a lot of systems can be customized to include this, and we just don't know about that. So I encourage you all, ask this about this specific topic if you're not using it today. Talk to your IT group or whoever manages your systems. So on topic 4, I just want to bring up a little about giving the sales reps as much information as possible so they have everything they need to service the customer. If you're really using BI to its fullest extent, you can easily provide all these things, well, not easily, but you can usually provide all of these things even though they might be coming from multiple databases and multiple areas of the company. Maybe we put in emails and trip reports so that it's easy to see what the customer has been discussing with other people in the company, typical CRM type functionality. We want to include pictures of dealers and their location, pictures of who I might be talking to, how we might be displaying the products. We can pull data from outside of RMA systems so they know what kind of quality problems they're having. And we want to be, so we can be proactive and talk about credit and other information. So on the screen that, on the next screen here, I've got an example, and like I say, you might be surprised at what your system can do. So here's one from Pepperi that I implemented at a client, and what we did is we said as part of the process, you have to go through this account dashboard page. So in order to submit a sales order, you have to go through this page. And you can see there's an alert up at the top that tells about a credit problem. There's a number of reports like pictures, trip reports, quality reports. Those are those icons up at the top of the screen there. And those reports actually come from outside of the system. They're not coming from this system. So we're pulling data in from elsewhere. They also see sales trend information related and other things related to loyalty programs. So the different things that they're trying to prompt the customer on, and a lot of information about the customer. There's also kind of drill down reports that they can get to, so they can go and see what are the different types of products that are being purchased. In this case, there's a picture that they can drill down to as well, and quality reports that they can review. So we'll see those here on the screen. Yeah, you can see that pictures of what's going on, and you can also see outside reports that are coming in. Okay, so let's go to number 5, motivating the team. So this one, I want to talk about something that's come up a lot of times over the years that I've worked with BI. So when companies are implementing BI, they want to drive certain results. There's a lot of ways to motivate the team, and some ways just aren't as good as others. So you can probably see where I'm heading here. If you look at the left-hand side here, I'm showing the number of, let's say, orders that the reps are entering. We're comparing on the left the reps to each other. So you might look at this. You might say, well, this is positive. Now Stan is seeing that he needs to try a little harder, and there's some peer pressure to get him to put in more orders. But more than likely, you're probably just demotivating Stan and making him less productive. And what I've found too is you probably end up finding that Jim starts being really arrogant with the other reps because he knows he's the best, and so he's like, well, I won again, and that's not a good way to make a team. So on the right-hand side is a way that's probably a better way to motivate Stan. So the report that shows just Stan by himself and shows Stan compared to a goal is probably more private. It's probably a report that only Stan gets, and it keeps Stan focused on his goal and thinking about ways that he needs to meet the goal, instead of worrying or adding on a layer of, gosh, what is everyone else thinking about me, and Jim's being a real jerk. So use BI in a way that is going to be motivational, not demotivational. The next set of charts or example is highlighting that we need to be realistic. Sometimes I have clients that set goals that definitely aren't realistic. Nobody's really motivated to meet them. In the graph on the left, you can see that we're way below the goal, and we're consistently below the goal. So people stop paying attention to it. They just say, well, I'm never going to make 90, so 90 doesn't mean anything to me anymore. So instead of setting a goal where we ideally want it to be, it's better to set something that people can actually achieve. So that they're thinking, well, we're almost there. and we'll really try to push above the line. And you can see that in the middle one. That's much more motivational. We definitely don't want people to be complacent, and so we don't want them to always be achieving that line, but it's much better than the one on the left. And you can see on the right, we don't have to stop with just setting the goal low. As they meet the goal, then we can incrementally move it up, and ideally over time then we actually do get to 90, but we're doing it in a way that's motivational instead of constantly being in the red, constantly being negative. A few other things to think about with motivating the team. So we always hear that we need to praise in public and criticize in private. If we're trying to share as much information as possible, people need to see both the good and the bad. There's no easy answer to keep people from getting demotivated. So, we really have to focus on the culture at the senior level. You need to talk with the team about success and view problems as opportunities. You don't want to view problems as a reason to yell or pit people against each other. So that's motivating the team. Let's jump to the next topic, which is talking just briefly about prediction. We talked about that at the beginning in the curve, or who's at the prediction stage. So this is the highest level on the maturity curve. It's really about using more advanced analysis to calculate and update forecasts, or for example forecasts off of historical data. We can get really accurate with identifying cyclicality, cause and effect, if we have really good data to work with. The tools that you use can help you to predict and track effectiveness of marketing campaigns. So we know, did the campaign give really good results? Did it give the results that I wanted? If we're using data, then we don't have to rely on opinions of did this work the way we wanted to, or what is the future going to hold. We can include that in our discussions, but we're using advanced analysis and ideally becoming more accurate in making those predictions. There are some tools out there that I use. They're called corporate performance management tools, CPM tools, and these are really advanced. They have a lot of power behind them to really do this kind of analysis. The other thing we talked about already is these real-time recommendations, or the if you like this, you might like that engine. These systems, they're typically called big data analytics, hard for me to say, and along with CPM, they require that you're collecting a really high quality of detailed data from a variety of areas in the company. Honestly, they can be fairly complex to use and set up, so they're not for everybody, but the benefits can really push you ahead. I've seen some definite successes with using both the big data analytics and the CPM, and once you put it in place and start using it, it's really surprising how much it gives you. So I want to push you to, or I want to encourage you to push for this. It's probably a big challenge, but definitely push for that in your company. Item 7. So I want to talk a little bit about selecting BI systems. I'm not going to get into a ton of detail on it, but I want to give you an overview of some things to think about. Most of the time, when you're looking at a generic reporting and dashboard system, you end up being like a kid in a candy store. There's so many cool features, there's great graphs, there's lots of capabilities, and the only thing really limiting us is the cost of the system. We say, well, I guess if we can spend a lot of money, then we get a lot of features, and that's how we tend to drive our decision. But what you'll find is we have products out there that are full-featured and the price is reasonable. Sounds great. But the problem is that we overlook the complexity of the tools, and even though they might be reasonable in price, we're going to have to hire additional IT staff to set up and manage the system. So the other thing, the other thing to think about is that we might be overwhelming the sales group with too many options. So do they have the ability to deal with a more sophisticated system? So we have to manage both the IT department and the users in picking the right tool. So the next screen, I kind of show a quick chart of some of the popular BI tools, just a few, but it helps me, by seeing this chart, it helps me to remember that as I have more features, I have more management that I have to deal with. I have more that I have to tackle, and from IT and from the sales group. So it's just a way to remember that, and you might recognize some of the names. We know Excel, crystal reports, things like Power BI. What's kind of surprising is that this graph shows that as you add features, that the management requirements kind of increase, but surprisingly the costs don't necessarily increase that much between these systems. I mean, a lot of these are achievable by most companies, and so what really needs to limit you is not the cost, it's the ability to manage it. So on the next screen. I brought up just a couple of the names, and so I wanted to kind of show, and I think that most of you probably have seen some of these tools, but I want to bring it up just in case and talk briefly about the differences between them, some of the things that you should think about. So here's Excel. We've all seen Excel. You can make nice charts with it. The big downside is that most of the time it's a static report. You're emailing the report back and forth. People have different versions of the report. You can email it to somebody who's mobile, but it's not really easy for someone to bring up on their phone, or if they do, it's not like it's not optimized for the mobile environment. So these reports, this is the basic, this is the entry level here. The next one is SQL reporting services, and that on our chart that was called SSRS. The nice thing about this one is that you can view reports in a browser. So if I'm looking in a browser, everybody's using the same version of the report. I don't have to worry about things that have been getting emailed back and forth. That's a huge step moving forward. These reports, they're usually pulling from a centralized database, so there's more consistency. I'm getting data from the same place on the same report. And you can kind of see, well, you probably can't kind of see on this screen, but at the top there's the ability to filter, so you have lots of choices in filtering, which you didn't have in something in Excel maybe. And in the report itself, there's drill down capabilities. So as I click on one thing, then it drills me down to another report, and as I click on a chart, it drills me down to another report. So so this definitely is a step up from using something like Excel, and yeah, it's something that I really push people to adopt. The next one is an example. This one is called ClickView. So this product, it's similar to the SSRS product in that reports are centralized. But the nicest thing about this is it's designed to present really nice dashboards. You can do fairly complex filtering on the left-hand side there. We're talking about a lot of different ways to filter these dashboards. It also allows you to set up reports on the fly. And the big thing with a nice tool like ClickView is that it requires quite a bit of IT staff support. So this isn't something that you just throw in and the average Joe sets up. But once it is set up, it works great. And I think it's really intuitive for sales reps. It really provides a ton of value for them. So those are kind of some things about generic BI tools. But what's really important, and I've mentioned a few times, is on the next slide, the embedded BI. So we've talked about Pepperi. It's a tool that has that available. But if you look at the next little example, this is a tool called Infor, and Infor. So one of the things I like about Infor is that it has these widgets on the right-hand side, and as I'm entering a sales order or entering a quote, I'm getting a graph like the one that's circled there that is showing me dynamically, here's the inventory levels that are predicted over some period of time. I'm getting alerts about maybe some quality problems. I'm getting alerts about credit problems. I'm getting documents that come up on the product that the customer is wanting to purchase, and all of that is happening as I'm entering the sales order. So this is really powerful. Yeah, this is where you really want to strive. The problem is you're probably not picking a ERP tool or an order entry tool or a CRM tool just for the BI. You're picking it for the other functionality. So it's a balance in getting what you can get, and you're probably not going to be able to go back to your company and say, gosh, I really wish that our ERP system had these graphs. Let's get rid of the ERP system. You're oftentimes stuck with that because that's a huge investment. But again, ask your IT group, ask the people that know your system, is this something that I can use? Is this something that does make sense for our company? Okay, so next. So I want to before we finish up, I want to talk about just a few of the actual results that I've helped my clients achieve with BI. First of all, at a company called Botech, we had a situation where the outside sales reps, they would visit a dealer and they'd take down an order on a paper form, not necessarily uncommon. When they got back to the office, they go to check inventory, and if there's a problem, they go back to the dealer, not physically or maybe on a phone call. Then eventually, after they've talked back and forth, then they go and send the paper form in, so it can be manually entered in the ERP system. If the customer was over the credit limit or some other problem was found, then the order had to be sent back. And we found that the average travel time, or the travel back and forth, was 4 times on average. That from the dealer making a request to the request actually being released out to the warehouse to pull from inventory, it was 4 times on average that they had to go back and forth. So what we did is we implemented a mobile system that gave the reps all of this information, all this BI in real time, so that when they're talking with the dealer, we were really able to eliminate these delays. So now when they're standing in front of the dealer, they say, oh, you want that order? Yes, I know that there's inventory. I know that we can get it done. I know that you're okay with credit. And we were really able to shave 4 days off of this, the total time between customer request and shipping it out to the customer. Big impact just from BI. Next one, at a company I work with called MEI, their ERP system, one of the features was that it knew when there were corrections made to the sales order. So we weren't really using that. We knew that there were people in our sales admin group who were constantly having to make these corrections, people in the planning group that were having to go back and make questions, or the sales reps were having to go back. So what we did is we created a report that showed, here's the area that needs the most correction. The PO was missing, the dates were wrong, some field was screwed up. So once the sales reps started seeing these reports on a daily basis, they just quickly changed their habits. I mean, we didn't have to do big quality improvement projects. It was just showing them the information. And we reduced errors significantly because now we were telling them firsthand instead of just correcting them. That was maybe not a big impact on profit, but a big impact to the company. I mean, made a big change for them. Next one, a company I work with called Harbor Electronics. Their focus has always been on revenue. And honestly, they couldn't really figure out the profitability of some of their products. They were making custom products for people, and it was just really difficult. So we created a system to, first of all, we had to do more profitability analysis, so that was a bit of a challenge. But then we created a system that showed them profitability of their customers. And what they found was they were really focusing on the wrong customers. I mean, one of their customers was Intel. So they said, oh my gosh, Intel, we have to do whatever we can for Intel. It's Intel. And once we showed them profitability, they found Intel's not really so good anymore. And we need to start changing pricing on some of these customers to either get more margin out of them or, get them to buy less so we had capacity for better customers. So they changed the pricing on those low margin customers. We started prioritizing high margin customers. And I mean, there was a significant increase in profits just from identifying the best mix of customers. And they just weren't looking at the data before. They were doing a lot of things anecdotally. So again, big impact there. Finally, another customer, Multitest, over in Germany, we put in an in-process business intelligence system, and so it prompted the customer service department or the customer service people to contact customers immediately when problems arose. So instead of waiting for customer service to go out and search and say, oh gosh, how is customer X doing, or how are their orders doing? I'm going to give them a call. Oops, something is wrong. The system actively said, guess what? Something is going wrong with this particular order for this particular customer. So they were proactively prompted to contact the customer and tell them, hey, you know what? We're having this kind of issue. I just want to let you know. And instead of waiting until the day before shipping, which is far too late, we were doing this well in advance. And what they found is just by sharing that information with the customer, both from a phone call and then they were even able to provide that information online to the customer, satisfaction rose significantly. Now, it rose significantly, oddly enough, but they didn't fix a lot of these problems. So the problems of on-time percentage and some quality issues really didn't necessarily, that the customer service or the customer satisfaction was improved not just because, or not because of fixing the problems, it was communicating the problems. So again, BI making a big impact there. So let's finish up with just a few final thoughts here that I wanted to put in before we finish up. One big thing is that IT is heavily involved in these projects, but they're not IT projects. I go in a lot of places, the first person that I talk to is the IT guy, and he says, oh yeah, we want to implement this kind of system. And I'm like, okay, that's nice, but why are you the one talking to me about this? It's really the people in the sales group. It's really the people in finance and in production. Those are the ones that need to talk to us about what they're looking for and what's going to make an impact on the company, not the IT guys. So definitely don't throw this over the wall to them, and own the data. You know, if something is looking bad, again, it's not IT's issue that it's looking bad. It needs to be owned by the people in sales or the people in whatever department. Don't hide bad news. Use it to make the company better. We want to, you know, say embrace the information, but you don't want to hide it. If your revenues are looking poor or your goals are never being met, that's not a reason to hide that. That's a reason to maybe change the goals or a reason to put in some continuous improvement. There are BI options that are great for a company of 10 people. You know, you don't need to be a large company with a big support staff. You just pick the pieces you want and you can manage it. You can definitely get on that original curve. You can definitely get to the second phase, and you can really get to the monitoring even with a small IT staff. I mean, there are a lot of solutions that you can use. And finally, you know, help is out there, so ask for help. There's a lot of information online. There are seminars and conferences, and then there's, you know, guys like me that are consultants that are out there to help you out. So don't go down this path alone. Look for help. So, you know, with that, I hope it gives you some overview of some of the things I've found over the years that have made BI valuable. And, you know, after this, you can contact the folks at Pepperi, contact me directly if you have questions. And Oren, do you have questions that people have typed in?
Yeah, so Ian, thank you very much for this insightful session. I would like to open the floor for questions. So if you have any questions, on the bottom right of your panel, of the GoToWebinar panel, click on the questions box and type in your questions, and we'll be happy to address them as best we can. So we have a first question, Ian, to you. How many metrics do you recommend on presenting in a single dashboard?
So I try to do things in fives. I try to do 5 main topics, and then underneath that, if I can do, let's say, 5 bars. So that's usually something that can be digested easily, and I try to do it as graphical as possible, so people don't have to interpret the numbers. They see a few things on the screen. They see it's red, yellow, or green, and they know just to take action right away instead of looking at a number 12 and going, is 12 good or 12 bad? But yeah, 5, maybe 7 are ideal for me. Okay.
And then a question related to the case study you spoke of on Botec. How long did it take you to implement the solution that combines mobility and BI at Botec, where you showed the return of 40% or thereabouts?
Yep, 30%. So the initial implementation was about, or to phase 1 was about 6 weeks. So we had 2 things going in parallel. One was setting up the system, the technology side of things, and the other side was getting the data normalized and getting it into a format that people could rely on. So in about 6 weeks, we were able to do both of those things and start it out. We gave that to the sales reps, and then I want to say it was 3 to 4 weeks before it was, let's say, 100% live and fully adopted. So between 2 and 3 months and this was we were seeing that reduction in by 4 days. We were seeing that in 2 to 3 months.
Very impressive. Ian, and then maybe a follow-up question to that or related. In terms of data normalization, you spoke about that. Do you recommend to go at it with tools that help you do that, or manually? What is your recommended approach?
Yeah, it's really nice if the data is dirty, meaning that if you put a state or a country in, you've spelled them incorrectly. Or if you're using the word street, that you use an ST or the word street. If those kinds of things are in your data, then you can use automated tools. You can offshore the work because it's if this is a problem, fix it this way. But what I usually see the problem is that we have a customer called Ace Hardware in Timbuktu, and we have another customer called Ace's Hardware in the neighboring city. Are those the exact same customer, or are they a different customer? And sometimes that's not very easy to determine when the names are fairly similar. So in those cases, that's where we usually need to get someone in the sales groups involved, sales admin or someone that really understands, okay, yeah, these two guys are the exact same one. Let me eliminate one of those.
Ian, thank you very much for your time. Everyone, if you have any additional questions, we'll be happy to hear them as follow-ups, info@pepperi.com, and we'll be happy to get back to you. As I mentioned earlier, you will receive a copy of the presentation shortly in your email boxes, so be on the lookout for the webinar presentation tomorrow. We'll hopefully get that out to you. And in the meantime, have a great rest of the day. And thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, everybody.